In financial history, perhaps the most widely known hyperinflation is Germany, 1923, as children played with worthless piles of cash. German hyperinflation tore the country apart and paved the way for the rise of the Nazi Party. But this was not the worst hyperinflation ever seen. At the very top of the hyperinflation table is Hungary, where hyperinflation peaked at 207% per day in 1946. Prices doubled every 15 hours. How did this happen? Let's start with the context: the end of World War II. World War II and its aftermath were terrible for Hungary, which had aligned with Nazi Germany. Pierre Siklos explains that, in the 1930s, Hungary was an agrarian economy, and the prospect of assisting Germany in its war preparations presented Hungary with the opportunity to industrialize. This bet seemed to pay off at first. As World War II broke out, Hungarian industrialization accelerated. But Hungary's economy could not shoulder the financial burden of war. Hungary paid for its war efforts with debt. By 1944, debt financed 91% of war spending. As the war dragged on, Germany was unable, or simply refused to pay for Hungarian goods. Hungary's finances were devastated. Baumberger and Makinen explain how Hungary's dire situation turned worse as the war ended. The German army retreated from heavy fighting through Hungary, pillaging all capital stock it could find, and destroying what could not be taken, such as railroads. As the Germans left, the Soviets came. Much of the remaining physical capital in Hungary was stolen by the Soviet army. Overall, it is estimated that World War II destroyed 40% of Hungary's capital stock. The human side was no better. Heavy war casualties and mass deportations deprived Hungary of badly needed human capital. At the end of war, it is estimated that Hungary's economy was half of what its pre-war level. One of the many problems of a destroyed economy is that it does not offer much of a tax base. But it got worse. When Hungary signed the armistice in January 1945, it consented to pay heavy war reparations to the Soviets and the full occupation costs of the Soviet army there, up to 700,000 men. The result? Total reparations and occupation costs accounted for up to 50% of monthly expenditures by the Hungarian government. There was only one way to finance this: unhinged money printing. In 1944, the highest banknote in Hungary was 1,000 pengos. In 1945, it was 10 million pengos. In 1946, it was 100 quintillion. Hungarians rejected the pengo, and the government was forced to create a new indexed currency, the tax pengo. Baumberger and Makinen explain that, to obtain the same real resources, the government was forced to accelerate money printing, and inflation exploded. By 1946, it peaked at 207% per day. Why did Hungary do it? Had they not learned from history? It turns out that Hungarians had seen hyperinflation before in 1923. Why do it again? In a later interview with Arthur Karas, then president of the Hungarian Central Bank, Baumberger and Makinen explain that the Hungarians knew that money printing would lead to hyperinflation, and warned their Soviet overlords, who controlled Hungary. The Soviets simply ignored the warnings, leading some to conclude that the hyperinflation was designed to achieve a goal: the destruction of the middle class. Hungary needed a stabilization program, is the restoration of the public's faith in the value of money. This was launched on August 1, 1946. Baumberger and Makinen explain. First, a new currency, the forint, would replace the old currencies. The forint was backed by gold. The US then assisted Hungary in recovering large gold reserves that had been stolen from Hungary by the Nazis, and the Hungarian Central Bank was now forbidden to lend anything unbacked to the government. Second, a comprehensive reform of the tax system followed. Tax rates were raised considerably over those in force prior to the war. Expenditures were also subject to severe fiscal discipline. The number of civil servants was reduced in each ministry to 90% of the number in pre-war levels. The results were dramatic. In 1946, only 21% of expenditures were covered by tax proceeds. For fiscal year 1947-48, it covered 96%. If the goal was to kill hyperinflation, then the plan was a success. This was achieved rapidly, without prolonged massive unemployment. Baumberger and Makinen conclude that price stabilization was accomplished by fiscal rather than purely monetary measures and, paradoxically, accompanied by rapid and prolonged money growth. But the longer-run implications of this stabilization plan are unknown. Hungary moved from a market to a command economy in 1947, in what was in retrospect a communist coup. Our verified sources are shown here. Write to us in the comments section if your interpretation is different, or if you'd like to suggest other sources. What are the takeaways for you? If you saw our episode on the world's first hyperinflation in France, you recognize a few similarities with Hungary, 1946. In both cases, massive fiscal deficits due to war expenses were financed by unhinged money printing. But the Hungarian case seems to have been by design, imposed by the Soviets, preparing the ground for the 1947 coup. Are hyperinflations a thing of the past? No. The last case recorded was in Zimbabwe, 2008. What can you do as an individual investor to protect your assets in cases of hyperinflation, or simply high inflation? The classic solution is to flee into real assets. Another defensive move is to diversify geographically and remove your assets from high inflation places. But this solution may not be available to lower income savers. Sadly, financial history shows that the ones who tend to suffer the most with high inflation are the poorer citizens. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to see more financial history from verified sources, subscribe to our channel and join our community striving to learn from the misfortunes of others to avoid similar fates.